Was a shadow in the government's game. Pawn as a child with no face and no name. They stole my past to leave me cold and alone. Always searching for a place I could call home. I was lost in the dark, just a tool in the hand, till she pulled me close and helped me understand. Now the fire inside is starting to rise. I can see the truth through 1,000 lies. Now I tear through the veil, leave holes in the sky. I can read every thought in the blink of an eye. Danica, my witch, she's the magic in me. Yeah, I finally found what they took from me. With a hellhound beside me, I'm standing my ground. No longer a ghost that's never been found. In the dead of the night, I can hear the call. All the ghosts of my past scratching through the wall. My eyes change colors, the power has grown. With Crowley the hound, I'm never alone. I used to be hollow, a man made of glass, but now I am reclaiming every year that has passed. Every memory is falling right back into place. I know every name and I remember every face. Now I tear through the veil, leave holes in the sky. I can read every thought in the blink of an eye. Danica, my witch, she's the magic in me. Yeah, I finally found what they took from me. With a hell on beside me, I'm standing my ground. No longer a ghost that's never been found. I ain't running no more, yeah, I'm ready to fight. Gonna settle that debt in the depth of the night. They tried to break me, they tried to erase, but they can't hide the blood from the scars on my face. The veil is thin and the engine is hot. I'm taking back everything that they thought I forgot. Now I tear through the veil, leave holes in the sky. I can read every thought in the blink of an eye. Danica, my witch, she's the magic in me. Yeah, I finally found what they took from me. With a tailhound beside me, I'm standing my ground. No longer a ghost that's never been found. I remember it all now. Every single face, I'm calling for
Go ahead.
you in the dead of the
You know you
night.
want to let him out. Hello, everybody. My name's Henry, for those of you that don't know. For those of you that do, welcome back. Tonight I'm going to tell you a story. It's kind of a mystery / ghost story, and a little bit of everything in between. Now, this story takes place high on the bluffs down in Alton, Illinois. Back in the mid-1800s, there was a wealthy family that built a mansion way up on the bluff there overlooking the Illinois River. Some say it was somewhere up above where the Piasol bird is now, but kind of further back downriver. I'd only seen the place one time, and it was just by pure accident. Well, the story goes that this man and woman were wealthy. I mean, wealthy beyond belief. Money was no object, and they had a big mansion built. After it was built, they moved into it. They had servants, people, the maids that cleaned the house, and they even had a grand staircase. This mansion had 3 stories. and a full basement that was a big wine cellar. Each floor had its own set of maids, and there was a servant staircase. Now, for its time, it was really actually almost to the point where it was so well set up and organized. They even had an intercom system. Not like you would think. It was kind of like the one up at Hannibal. It was a system of tubes with mouthpieces and earpieces. And when you got ready to listen, you pulled the plug out and put your ear up there. The person that was up above or below would pull a plug and talk. Then they'd put their ear up and listen for the message back. This house on the inside had all pocket doors. Great big oak pocket doors. And I mean, they slid so easy that you could almost just barely touch it and they would slide shut. Big, beautiful chandeliers made out of crystal. There wasn't dust nowhere. They even had a carriage house in the back. And eventually, when the man got an automobile, they kept the horses and the buggy until the horses got so old they passed away, and then they'd keep the car in there. They never got rid of the old buggy. It was still there. They made a separate building that was attached to the carriage house to keep that in, and they had a guy that tended to it. Every 2 weeks, he'd go out there and pull it out, wash it all out real good, and wash the dust off of it. He'd polish it, then put it back in there. I mean, this place was one of the most beautiful places in Dalton at that time. Well, they had 2 kids. They had a boy and a girl. Their parents didn't send them out to go to school. They had some of the finest tutors come in, and there was even one room that was set up like a classroom, and it was upstairs. That way they wouldn't be disturbed by the comings and goings during the day. They even had piano teacher come in. They had a violin teacher come in. These kids learned stuff that none of the other kids was learning around Alton. They were just wealthy kids, but they wasn't spoiled. Their parents raised these kids right. They didn't grow up like Nellie Olson. They grew up having respect and watching out for the less fortunate. Well, nobody hardly ever come up there unless they was doing business with the dad. But periodically, they'd have a dance up there. They'd have a live band come in, almost like an orchestra, come in, and they had one level was nothing but like a big dance hall. It even had a balcony that you could go outside of the room and take these set of stairs, come into a room up there, and you walked out onto the balcony and you could overlook the dance floor. The band played on an elevated platform. Had big curtains in front, so when the ball would start, the curtains was closed. Then the servants would draw the curtains open there was the band. And they had some hellicious parties there. And there was lots of big fancy cars. Sometimes there was horses and buggies that would show up. Those were good times. But eventually, the dad passed away of old age. Then the mother passed away of old age. Now, these kids had never been into Alton, meaning they had never went to town. Anything they wanted, they would get one of the servants, and they would go pick it up. Same way with groceries. This boy and girl never left. After their parents passed away, the servants took care of them. It's like, other than their parents passing away, nothing changed. They just never left. Well, they had found out that there was a school there in Alton, a grade school, that their parents had been donating money to keep that school going, make sure every little kid had something they needed. So, after their parents passed away, they just kept sending money. Now, this has all been lost to time. What their names were, I don't know what their names were. Nobody knows exactly where they come into all this money. That was lost to time too. The grounds were kept immaculate. The hedges were trimmed. The trees were cut back. The yards were watered by a sprinkler system and fertilized. I mean, it was better looking than the White House lawn. And they had all these people that was taking care of all this stuff. At one time, they claimed that there had to have been 20 plus people living there besides them two. There was even smaller buildings out around living quarters that were beautiful. I mean, it wasn't like slave houses or nothing. But maybe those servants wanted their privacy on their off time. A lot of them lived in the mansion. But some of them were married or got married, and they lived in what they called the tenant houses. Well, you know, it'd be like, how do you guys pay your electric bill? We just sign our name to a check. And then what? Well, we passed off to one of the servants and they take care of it. They'd never been to a post office. The servants took care of all that. And they treated them really good. I mean, to be one of their servants would have been one of the best jobs you ever had, probably. And their servants were loyal. Well, they had this old car, great big old car, looked like one of them old Duesenbergs. Looked like it just rolled off the showroom floor. The chauffeur washed and waxed it every week, and it was even kept in a garage. Furthest it ever went was to Alton, right just into town and back. its maintenance was taken care of. Well, they got lonely because their servants, started aging like them, passing away. Well, when this story really picks up, they're down to 3 servants, a butler, and a head maid, and a chauffeur. This young lady in the early 80s got a call from her boss. She was like an in-house nurse, and she was given the address, so she would go there. And these old people get talking to her, and they told her, said, we got a couple houses out back. Maybe you ought to just move in there. And she goes, oh, I can't. I don't live far from here. But I have a husband and a couple kids. They was like, you got kids? Well, yeah, why? Well, maybe you could bring them to work with you sometime. We'll have somebody to play with. She just kind of laughed, and she goes, well, maybe I might do that. He goes, now, the old man was like, I'm going to tell you right now, though. Once a month, you'll see some school buses come up here. And it's these grade school kids. And he said, we have the servants put big tables out there with tablecloths, and it's all covered with food, cakes, pies, the works. And they come up here and they spend the day. And we sit out there and play croquet and watch the kids. They just make a day of it. They come up here and play in the grounds, and sometimes if we ain't too tired, we get up and play too. Even though we're getting up in age. And the girl said, well, that's really nice. He goes, yeah, he said, and then we have a drawing. We get a count of how many kids there is that's going to be coming. And we have games, and they win prizes. But they have to reach into my top hat for the prize number. He said, but each kid walks away with no less than $20 cash. He said, kind of give back to the city that took our parents in. She said, well, do you ever go to town? And he was like, no. We just stay up here. We wouldn't know how to act because we ain't never been to town. We was born here in this house where we'll pass away just like our parents did. She goes, well, don't you ever wonder what Alton's like? No. We get a newspaper and we read it. We get the St. Louis paper and we read that. Our pride and joy is our kids. Well, she didn't know they were sister and brother. And she goes, you guys get kids? No, the school kids that come up here, we call them our kids. Me and my brother, we look forward to this. She goes, oh, okay. Because she was busy looking around, just kind of halfway paying attention. So they go, so what will your duties be? And she goes, well, I'm here to check your pulse, check your heartbeat, see if there's any problems that needs to be addressed, and keep your medications in check and administer your medicines as you need. And they was like, well, we learned how to read and write real good. My sister there, she plays the piano. We got a big grand piano. And sometimes we go in there in the music room, and she played that, and I played the violin. And he said, we don't have nobody to play for her, except for when the kids come. He said, sometimes we just have our workers come in plain clothes, and we just have a dance. Just so we can remember what it was like when we was little, and Mom and Dad would have the big dances up there in the ballroom. She goes, well, how many levels is there to this place? And he goes, well, if you don't count the basement, there's 3 levels. He said, now we move a little slow, but we can climb the stairs all the way to the top of the house. He said, well, why don't me and my sis here just give you a tour? So they took this young lady, the grand tour. That spiral grand staircase was beautiful. It was a wild cherry, and it was kept polished. That thing was as shiny as a diamond in a goat's ass. I mean, it just sparkled, especially with them chandelier lights hitting it. He said, I can remember Mom and Dad had gas lights in. He said, then they told us that those were getting kind of old and faulty, that we need to have electricity put in. He said, they run them wires, and we had guys all over the place as they was walking, and he was showing the rooms. They was all over, and he said, you know, we decided since all them electricians was up here, them guys working on them wires, we would put a big feast on. And we invited every one of those guys to come back with their families and just have a big party. He said, you wouldn't believe it. We had people inside, people outside. There were people smoking big old cigars. And he said, it was a grand time. And he said, after the party was over, we went to sleep and we dreamt about those parties that Mom and Dad used to have. He said, I miss those parties. He said, me and my sister used to get up there on the balcony after Mom would be up there looking as everybody come in. She'd make her way down that spiral staircase in that big old dress. Dad'd be down there shooting the breeze with all them people with his top hat on set on to his side. Big old cigar. Me and my sister would sneak out of bed. We'd go up there and sit there and watch them people. And sometimes, when they'd be dancing, we'd be up there imitating them. He said a few times Mom and Dad looked up there and caught us. And it wasn't long and they sent the servants up to put us back to bed. He said, but we had a good time. He said, believe it or not, one time, was having a party. And we snuck downstairs using the servant staircase. And he said, got down there and he said, somebody got talking and having a big old cigars. And they set it down while they was talking and they forgot about it. And he said, my sister started laughing and he said, I crawled behind the sofa, behind the chairs, behind the fainting couch, and reached up in that ashtray and got that big old cigar out and snuck off with it. He said, me and Sis went out there in the back by the carriage house round back there. And he said, both of us. He said, I'd take a big old puff and the smoke would just roll. And he said, I'd pass it. She'd take a big old puff. And he said, and both we got to laughing and got to coughing. He said, this cigar was damn near bigger than us. And we just kept smoking. And all of a sudden, he said, I looked at my sis. And he said, I seen her face going green. At the same time, I started not feeling so good, and she looked at me and she goes, "Man, your face is getting green." And he said, all of a sudden, we both started heaving and gagging. He said, we was out there by that carriage house selling them Buicks. And he said, it was so loud, us over there puking, that the servants come out there, helped us get up. There we were, rolling around our own vomit, in our night clothes, after dark. They snuck us in the house so we wouldn't get in trouble. Took us down into the basement. Washed us off real good so our parents wouldn't know it, and then snuck us back up into our rooms, put us to bed. And he said, next morning we got up, he said, I ain't never had a hangover, but I can imagine that's probably what it felt like. We was both green and sick. Well, that poor girl got to laughing, and she goes, but I see you got cigars in your jacket. He goes, oh yeah. He said, after getting sick a couple of times, finally learned how to smoke those things. They're pretty good. He said, but my sister, she can't hack them. He said, but I got kind of fond of them. I love the smell of them black cherry cigars. He said, they're nasty old things, but I got the hankering for them after they made me sick a few times. We was walking her around, showing her around. At the end of this one hallway up on the top floor, he said, whatever you do, don't never ever open that door and go up that staircase, because that goes up to a room on the very tip top. It's just one room. That room's not for you. Don't. It's off limits to everybody. It's only me and my sister go up there. And he said, we play with a spirit board. She goes, a spirit board? You mean a Ouija board? He goes, well, I guess that's what you call it, but in our day they called it a spirit board. Okay. So they wind their way back down the stairs. And he takes her down and shows her the basement with the big wine racks and all these bottles of wine from back in the 1800s all the way up. And this girl's like, you guys got wine from back in the 1800s? He goes, yeah. Some of that was Dad's favorite stuff there, and Mom liked this over here. She goes, well, wouldn't it have turned to vinegar by now? And he goes, nah. It's like us, it gets better with age. She just started laughing. So they went back up into the parlor. And he goes, don't worry, he said, if you get lost, we have people on every floor. All you gotta do is tell them to point you to the main floor, or they might even escort you down. He said, but don't worry about it. He said, me and my sister there, we getting old, and sometimes we forget too. And he said, we wander around the house, and he said, sometimes it's like all being brand new again. She just kind of chuckled, and he laughed, and he goes, you mind if I smoke? She goes, well, it's your house. So he pulled a big old cigar out, put it in his mouth, and lit it up. That old smoke just swirled around his head like a tornado. Well, the girl said, well, I'm going to go down and sit down right here and write down take a few notes. And she said, then I guess I'll be heading out, and I'll be back tomorrow. So tomorrow will actually be my first day. Today was just a meet and a greet. He goes, well, tomorrow I'll show you the grounds. He said, if I remember correctly, I think we got a golf cart. He said, we got so much stuff, and he said, I really don't know what all we have, but he said, I think we have a golf cart. He said, I have to get the chauffeur to drive us around, because he said, Only thing I ever knew about driving was horse and buggy. You don't even drive your own car? No, we have a chauffeur for that. She's like, okay. He goes, well, I'll leave you to writing in your book. I'm going to be over there shooting some billiards over there across the hallway there. You need anything, you'll hear the balls hitting. Well, the lady sits down, she starts writing her thing, and she happens to look, and the sister, the old guy's sister, is sitting over in the corner crocheting. Being real quiet, just sitting over there humming to herself, doing her crocheting. So she's writing down in her little book times, dates, and all kinds of stuff. When she gets done, she walks over to the sister and she goes, I'll be back tomorrow. She said, be about 9 o'clock. And she goes, well, we look forward to you coming back. She goes, well, I promise I'll be back tomorrow at 9 o'clock. And she goes, normally I'll work 9 to 5 unless you guys need me to stay over a little bit later or whatever. But she said, normally it's 9 to 5. And she goes, do we need to go ahead and pay you in cash now? And she goes, no. This is already set up. I don't get paid daily. I get paid every 2 weeks. And she goes, well, I never know, because she said, when something comes due, the bookkeeper, he comes and tells, and all we do is just write a check out. We assign her name to the check, and he does the rest. She just kind of laughed, and okay. So the longer this lady keeps coming back, the longer she keeps coming back, she starts noticing some things that's really just off. At a certain time every day, usually between 12 noon and 1 o'clock, they would walk to that spiral staircase. If you need anything, let one of the servants know and they'll let us know. Okay. So she goes on about her business. And they start up that spiral staircase. Never get tired. They just take their slow, sweet time walking arm in arm. She didn't know exactly where they ended up. She just knew she watched them go up the spiral staircase till they got out of sight. So she goes in and starts making some dinner. Well, the servants come in. They's like, we'd have done that for you. All you have to do is let us know what you want. And she goes, no, that's okay. She said, I just brought me a sack lunch and lunch meat stuff, put it together. They was like, oh, no. You can't eat that. Why? Well, the Mr. and Mrs., they wouldn't have that. She goes, well, I don't want nobody to go to no trouble. She goes, oh, no, that's no trouble. But you get us in trouble if they seen you eating a sandwich. So she gets talking to him a little bit and like, have they really been here since they was born? Yep. They'd never been outside of the fence. Never been to town. They go out sometime to the end of the yard and look out across the river. Watch the big river boats going up and down, the little tugs. But as far as actually leaving the property, they never have. Matter of fact, when he was born, the doctor come up here. Do school kids really come up here once a month? Yeah, oh yeah, they go out there and play, and they run through the house, and sometimes the Mr. and Mrs. goes out there and plays croquet with them, or a game of hide-and-go-seek. Sometimes a game of tag if they ain't got the rheumatism. Yeah, make a whole day of it. Said you wouldn't believe all them yellow school buses. But they be parked the whole length of the property. Little kids running around playing and just having a good old time. It makes the Mr. and Mrs. really happy to see those kids. Well, a few years goes by, and this lady's still working for them. And she sees all these comings and goings. The butler, he wears a tuxedo-looking outfit. The maids wear the traditional black and white maid outfits. And the maids actually, and the housekeepers, use the servant stairs. They hardly ever use the main staircase. The girl thought, well, that's kind of peculiar, this is this day and age. But no. Now, had the girl got lost somewhere in there, they would have went up the main staircase or brought her down the main staircase. They wouldn't have brought her down the corridors. But yeah, they just lived like they was back in the 1800s. They would even tell her sometimes about the old brewery that used to be down there by where the Piasol bird is now. There in that trailer truck. If you're facing the Piasol bird, to the right there's a trailer truck parking place there. In that bluff, you'll see a whole bunch of these gray doors that goes into that bluff. That used to be where a brewery was at. And supposedly that's where some of their liquor come from. They had down there in the wine cellar. Nobody knows, like I said, where they got their money. The money never even seemed to stop. It was like money just kept appearing. Well, the lady got used to their quirks, and she loved listening to their stories, and she'd bring her kids up sometimes, and her husband. Even on their days off, she'd bring the kids and the husband up there, and they just have a family get-together out there in the backyard. Picnic tables. But the lady thought it was kind of weird. She never one time seen any groundskeepers. So was they going up there at nighttime doing all this work? She claimed the whole several years she worked for them, never seen any groundskeepers. But that house, the windows, the outside of that house, was always spotless. The grass was perfectly mowed. The hedges were perfectly trimmed. No limbs out there in the yard. And there were big old oak trees. Never no leaves in the yard either. Don't know. But the lady kept track all them years, the little things that were just kind of off. And these were good old people. They never harmed anybody. They were just pretty much rich hermits. They didn't go down into town, but even they did take care of the town. They paid their taxes and everything, but they just didn't venture off their property, which was kind of strange. The girl just chucked it up as, they're old people and eccentric. But as the years passed, these people didn't look like they got any older than what they were. It looked like they were probably in their 80s. And they didn't keep aging. Well, one day, she's headed up that big old road. And all of a sudden, She hears sirens coming, so she pulls over before she gets to the gates. There goes a bunch of police officers. There goes the EMTs. It was like a parade. Well, after they passed by, she headed on up there, expecting the worst. When she got up there, she just knew that somebody was going to tell her that they had passed away. No, they invited the EMTs, the fire truck, fire marshal and all them, the firefighters, the police up there for a banquet saying thank you and a big donation. This lady about fell out of her chair. She just knew when she got there they were going to be dead. One or the other, or both. Well, a few more years pass, and the girl goes up there one day, and right at the gate was shut. All of a sudden, one of the servants up there told the driver, I think that girl takes care of these old people. Better go down there and let her in. So he gets in the old car and opens the garage door, and down the road he goes. He gets down there, he's got tears running down his face, and she called him by name. She goes, everything okay? He goes, nope. The Mr. and Mrs. passed away. Well, I wasn't notified I was supposed to be notified. Oh, they didn't want to trouble you. That's weird. She goes, well, I guess I'll collect the few things I have up there, if it's okay. They were like, oh, no, that's fine. She goes, where's the showing going to be? He goes, showing? You know, where are they going to show the body for the funeral? What do you mean? Well, you know, they passed away. I don't know. Where did they take the bodies to? Who come and got the bodies? Nobody I know of. So they're still in the house. Oh, no, they're long gone. That's weird. So she's trying to figure this out. Well, they go inside and she starts gathering her stuff up. She also has to write down, you know, how many medications are left and what they are and how many pills are in this bottle and and taking notes so she can turn that into where she works. All of a sudden, she hears something coming down the main staircase. She turns and looks, and there's that little old man and old woman. Well, she drops her pen, about falls out of her chair, and she takes off running to that staircase. She says, I thought you guys was dead. Then it dawned on her. How would both of them pass away at the same time unless surely they didn't commit suicide. And they were just a-smiling. And she goes, honey, it's okay. We've lived many and many years, never leaving this place. We aren't about to leave it now. Well, she run up to them. They open their arms, give her a big hug, and she starts sobbing. I was told you guys died. Oh, honey. No, nothing like that. It was just our time. Well, I don't understand. She goes, we did pass away in our sleep. Well, then that means you're. And she goes, yeah, we're spirits. Well, the girl starts going back down the stairs. She's not sure what the hell to think. She lost her footing and tumbled down 4 steps before she hit the ground. Well, when she come to, the little old man, little old woman was standing there. The chambermaid was all standing there. The butler. And the driver. When the girl was starting to come to, she's shaking her head and kind of rubbing her eyes. And there's a little old doctor standing there. And he goes, just take it easy, don't get up in a hurry. As she's trying to get her bearings and the room is starting to kind of come into focus, she notices none of these people are standing on the floor. They're hovering above the floor about a foot. She chalked it up to, I must have hit my head really bad. All of a sudden, there's a big ring at the front door. The butler said, I'll be back. He didn't walk. He floated to the door and opened the door to let the EMTs in. The EMTs walked in like there was nobody around, except for that girl there on the floor. Well, they checked her out, was good. Put her on the gurney, took her out, shut the door, took her to the hospital. Next day, doctor come in, his nurse, and they was like, heard you took a heck of a tumble. She goes, you won't believe what I'm about to tell you. And he goes, can I ask one question before you tell me your story? Who called for the EMTs? She goes, I know it wasn't me, but I was knocked out cold. He goes, yeah, you got a heck of a knock there on the back of your head. She goes, it must have been the butler. He goes, ma'am, there hasn't been nobody living there since the 1920s. Now, all these people had been up there and had encounters with the people in the house, the mansion. Now, the real question is, the girl couldn't have been imagining it because she worked there. Somebody made the phone call. What about those kids going up there every month? All this happened, and nobody had a clue until that girl fell. And that's when it come to light to people in Alton, Illinois, that there was 2 spinster ghosts and their faculties up there that was mingling with the live. And up until that girl fell, the city, these schools, was getting checks sent from those people at that mansion every month. Now explain that one. It's a true story. It did take place. There was an old man and old woman. They were sister and brother that lived up in a big mansion. And there was people went up there. These people were making big contributions to the city, but they were ghosts. My uncle took me up there in the early 90s. There was a big lake up there. And he pointed out where the old house used to be. There was only a couple walls still standing. The carriage house was still standing. Now get this, it gets weirder. When that girl got hurt, that car that them people had mysteriously vanished. About 4 or 5 years after that, that car showed up in the Abbott car collection. They claimed that a chauffeur and a little old man, old woman that owned it showed up at his place and sold it to him for cash money. Once Mr. Abbott paid for the car, he turned around and looked at the car, and when he turned around and looked back, the two old people was gone, vanished, along with the driver, the chauffeur. And he said the chauffeur was a big tall guy in a chauffeur's outfit. He said the little old man had a top hat and a cigar. He said they wasn't real talkative, but I got a mint condition car, and to this day, the Abbott family still owns that one of them cars, and that one in particular. Didn't have hardly any miles on it. That shocked him because supposedly they bought it when it was brand new. Had it delivered to their house. Paid cash money. But it was in mint condition. They're long gone. And the house is just a little bit of it remains, not much. The old road that goes up there, still there. The wrought iron fence, black wrought iron fence, still there. But to this day, nobody can figure out who was manicuring them yards. There were lots of weird things that happened up there. Young kids would go up there and go partying or go up there and go necking, and they'd see all these people out there just staring at them in the moonlight. And it says that the people never got smart with them. They was just like, welcome. Welcome to our place. Make yourself at home. Well, you know it did. It scared the hell out of them. They wasn't sure on what the hell they run into, and they'd run back into town and tell everybody what had just happened. So more people go up there. Finally, they had to put a block across the road to keep people from going up there because people kept seeing these maids and servants and butlers and chauffeurs and that little old man and old woman out there walking around the grounds. Alton's a very, very haunted place. In Alton, you never know, daytime or nighttime, who's a ghost, who's not. So if you ever get there, just know about any direction you look and any place you head to is haunted because there's a lot of history there. Some of them little shops are even haunted. About 90% of them. Lots of stuff happened there and still happens today. There's even been Civil War ghosts seen. walking up there along Hop Hollow, and by the old Southern cemetery, which sets up there just back off of Hop Hollow. There's no bar up there. Way back up in there. That bar was there since before the Civil War. Still open. They still serve cold beer there. And that bar, it's haunted. Some people reported being standing there drinking or sitting at a table and look over in the corner. There's a couple of ghosts from the Civil War sitting there, and some of them even got up and said, "Okay, I've been here for 2 or 3 hours and I'm shit-faced, but Jesus Christ, when you start seeing ghosts, makes you sober real fast." They get up, pay their tab, and leave. Only to find out that the place is really haunted. They wasn't just seeing the pink elephant in the room. It was a real ghost they seen that scared the shit out of them. Some people go out and get in their car and there's a ghost sitting in the back seat from the Civil War. Asking where the horses are that's supposed to be pulling this coach. Hey. So yeah, you go there and have a beer. You'll ought to have a good spook and maybe even shit yourself. But that place does exist, and Alton is haunted. I mean, there ain't hardly any place in Alton you go to that ain't got some kind of a story or a haunting. Daytime or nighttime, it don't make a difference. I agree when they say Alton is one of the most haunted places in the United States, because it is. I know, I lived there for a while. Let me tell you, I've seen some weird shit there. So, you ever get in and around the Alton area, go spend the day there. Hell, spend a couple days there. Get you a motel room or go to a campsite. And just tour around the town. Just park your vehicle someplace. There's free parking everywhere. And get out and just walk the streets. Walk down by Broadway. And the streets up above it. Walk them. You think you got a real gutsy? Walk those streets. Not from... They're good streets. There ain't no bad on those streets other than the spooks that you're going to encounter. No harm will come to you about being robbed or anything like that. I'm just talking about the ghost that you'll encounter. Because it's one of the most haunted places in the world. Bar none. If I had to pick one place in the United States that would be a top ghost place, paranormal place, Alton. By far, it's haunted than any other place in the United States you'll go to. It might even put New Orleans to shame. So if you ever get there, check in. And also in Alton, they have some ghost tours that you can go on. They'll point out some highlights and give you some history. I've been on a couple of those too, and let me tell you something. Sometimes you see some shit that just blow your mind. And you're like, what the hell? Check out some of the antique shops down there. But I'm telling you, you watch. Because the person that's across the aisle from you or sitting back in that corner that you're walking back toward to look at something, 50-50 chance they're either a real human or a deceased one. I had a conversation in one of those one time with somebody in there I thought that was buying stuff. But when I walked up to pay for the stuff that I got, the lady up there at the cash register sitting up there laughing. She goes, "Who the hell was you talking to?" I said, "That..." But there wasn't nobody there. All of a sudden the door opened and that bell above the door went ding ding. She goes, "Yep. You had your ghostly chat." She goes, "I never have seen it yet though, but I see that damn door open and shut sometimes, and I look back there and somebody's having a conversation with somebody that I don't see." That's what maybe it ain't meant for you to see. So yeah, you never know what you're going to see when you go there. Go check it out. Hell, spend a week there. I guarantee you won't leave empty-handed. Some hauntings there are spooky and some are kind of funny. Some are just right down strange. Well, y'all have a good night. I hope you enjoyed the story, and thanks for watching. Y'all have a good night. Be good to one another. If you can't, just cuss. That's what I do. Well, y'all have a good night, and I'll catch you on the next one. There's a lot more coming from where that one come from. Have a good night. Thanks for watching again.